Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spotlight. Please like, favourite, subscribe before you do anything else. And we're going to get straight into just some general Man United chat today. And a couple of things I think we need to adjust as a club. We focused a lot previously on how bad the back four were. We invested a lot of money into the back four. Everyone thinks that we've got a solid base back there, and it's now the front line that we need to change. And I do agree with that. There's absolutely no doubt at all that we need some ball-playing players in the final third of the pitch. A striker that can just do literally anything. At this point in time, we're saying that just put Xerxes on the pitch because he's literally got a first touch and Rasmus hasn't. That is what we're saying right now. That is how bad it is. We have got Mainu, who he looks lost. And I don't know, everyone was saying he was such a prospect when he come through, but he's fell off a cliff. Whether he's playing the 6 or the 10, he's looked really poor. I've said it since the first couple of games he played for us. Mobility will be an issue with Mainu. He's just not got it. He can't get round the pitch. And I think if you're playing a 10 in this Amorim system with 2 10s and 1 striker, you've got to cover a lot of the pitch. One of them is almost like an 8, or you've got to get out to the wings and help the wing backs. You've got to help in the press. You've got to drop in and help the midfield, and he hasn't got the mobility for it. He's maybe a player, again, that doesn't suit the system. Maybe he suits a 4-3-3, where you've got 3 midfielders, and he doesn't have to do so much running. But right now, he does not look like a player who's up to standard. And yes, I get he's a kid, and I'm just talking Mainu in general, because I don't talk a lot about Mainu on the channel, because I don't want to give him too much grief. You've got Garnacho, who come on against Leicester and look good. But what do we class as looking good? He come on and he ran at some fullbacks and caused a bit of chaos within the last 20 minutes of a game. Go back a year, 12, 18 months, when Garnacho came onto the stage. That's exactly what he was doing, coming off the bench and impacting games. He doesn't start games and play well. So I have no problem with Garnacho coming on later on in games and doing what he's doing. But how many times did he get round his fullback at the weekend and make the wrong decision? The top players make the right decision. And as much as Garnacho turned that game on its head, it was still really poor once he got there. Everyone went on about him in the Rangers game. It's Rangers. They're basically a championship team. He started against Palace, a decent, solid, strong Premier League team, missing. You know what I mean? You cannot be praising these players when they turn up versus Southampton, Leicester, FCSB, Rangers, these type of teams. Then they go to Brighton's, Palace's, Everton's, Fulham's, and look garbage. The very, very, very least they should be forming at as a standard is doing what they do against Rangers and Leicester against a team like Fulham and Palace. The reality of it is they found their level. Just like Anthony has. Anthony's gone to Real Betis in a crap Spanish league and he's scoring goals and looking like he did at Ajax. Why? The teams in those leagues are rubbish. And our so-called best players, Bruno a lot of the time, Garnacho, Ugarte and people like that, they turn up versus the crap and go missing versus anything that's half decent. We need to get over praising these players when we beat rubbish teams. Until they can start beating teams in the top side of the Premier League, none of them deserve any praise whatsoever. And I want to get on to this Bruno and Dalot debate. And it's not so much of a debate, it's more everybody wants Dalot out the club for having 6 months of a poor, 6 months really poor this season. He plays every minute of every game for a reason. The manager is backing him. The previous manager backed him. And even Ollie used to play him. The same as Bruno Fernandes. Dalot, over the last 3 seasons, has had better seasons than Bruno. He was our player of the season last year. Solid the year before. Bruno's more hit and miss than me trying to hit a bullseye on a dartboard. It happens once every 100 throws. Useless. Until we stop this bias that we're better with Bruno, we were going nowhere. Like, why is it that Dalot can have a poor 6 months and everybody wants him gone? And our captain can have the 3 worst seasons we've ever had in the Premier League, being ill-disciplined, playing wherever he wants to, losing the ball every 5 seconds, can't get the ball over a first man on a cross or a free kick or a corner, can get sent off 3 times in a season, and it's all right. I don't get it. And like I've said before, it's not because I dislike Bruno. The guy can do some ridiculous things. But when we need a stable team who hold position defensively, are disciplined, and try to keep the ball, he just is not it. If you probably go watch videos of mine from 2-3 years ago, you will say and hear me say, while Bruno, Rashford and players like that are in this team, we will not win anything major or compete for the Champions League, whatever. And it's true to this day. And I understand why people like Bruno that just talk about his stats all the time. They don't actually watch games. And then you have the pivot. I mean, like, it's bad enough when he's playing at number 10 for me. But when he's playing in that pivot with Agate, it is a total and utter disaster. Like, why is Bruno Fernandes playing in a 6-8 role? The guy can't pass 5 yards. His basics are so inept, it's unbelievable. Yes, once a game he'll knock a 50-yard pass that's amazing. The other 30 passes he's done have been horrific. Agate, as we all know, isn't great on the ball himself. He's in there for legs and getting around and winning the ball back, which he does all right. But when he's in there with Bruno Fernandes, who's ill-disciplined positionally and really poor defensively on top of that, he's basically a one-man midfield. And we need absolutely, desperately, and this is what a point I'm getting to, is for us to compete in the top 4 in the Premier League and any major honours on a consistent basis, not a one-off year in the top 4 and we're 6th the next. I mean, top 4 or better for 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row. We need 2 new 6s. Agate will not take you to a Champions League or Premier League. He is not good enough on the ball. He's fine for where we are now, getting around the pitch, combative, winning the ball back. But the best midfielders need more than that, especially when there's only 2 of you in the midfield and you versus 3 nearly every game. You can't just win the ball back and lose it. Or win the ball back and give it to Bruno and he boots it. The pivot is a massive problem for Man United, and we're so focused on goals and not being able to score them that it gets forgotten. And I can guarantee, right, we'll go by 3 new strikers or something, or a couple of new 10s and a striker. We might score a couple more goals, but we'll still be wide open in that midfield if that is the pivot. We absolutely need to get Bruno Fernandes out of the pivot. And if he can't hold a number 10 roll down, why is Amorim playing him? Honestly, it is a joke. Again, 2 out of 10 performances as a Man United captain versus Leicester at the weekend. And he chucks a free kick in, which we score an offside goal from. And everyone's saying, oh, Bruno, another assist. Maybe if we didn't have Bruno playing and we had somebody who actually retains the ball, we wouldn't have need to wait till the 93rd minute for a cross. Because we wouldn't have been giving the ball away every 5 seconds. That's my point. And as for Martinez, obviously now he's out for a year, according to the reports. 3rd major injury in 3 years. Really poor start to the season he had. He was okay in the last 2 or 3 games, but before that, really poor. What we're going to do, wait a year and hope he comes back again to get injured again. He's like Luke Shaw. And yes, his attitude's better than Luke Shaw, so I'm not putting him in that bracket. I'm putting him in injury-prone bracket. You all say it about Mason Mount. Get him out of the club. He's injured all the time. He's a liability. He's rubbish. What difference is it? Oh, well, Martinez, I mean, he gets injured because he's doing this, that, and the other. He's aggressive. No, it's stupid. Or 2 now ACL injuries or knee injuries in 3 years. Major ones. He's finished, I'm sorry to tell you. Sad as it is to see, if he was fit, I'm not his biggest fan. But the way he's been over the last 3 seasons, you cannot argue we've got to cut ties with him. We do not need another Shaw, a Mount, if you want to say Mount, on our hands where they just never play. We've just had Malacia out for a year. He's obviously gone on loan and probably won't come back. But that's what he is now. Injury prone. We cannot keep these injury-prone players around the club constantly. It's just ridiculous. But tell me what you think on the Bruno Fernandes Dalot thing, because it really niggles me that everybody's getting on Dalot's back for a poor 6 months, and the captain of our club has had a poor 3 seasons, but because he scores the odd goal and gets the odd assist, he gets let off. Even though basically every game he's pretty much played in the last 3 years, he's barely made a 6 out of 10. And the games where he was good were the last 4 or 5 games of last season where he played false 9. And we have no striker. And we try Mainu at false 9. I mean, what is going on? There's the Sancho and Rashford thing, I think, that's come out last night after Rashford's been playing for Villa and Sancho basically saying freedom to him on one of his Instagram posts. I mean, I've got nothing to say about them two, really, apart from the sooner Chelsea actually buy Sancho, the better. And this myth around his mint for Chelsea and all that lot, he's not. Chelsea fans, half of them, are not really happy with him either. If you go watch any Chelsea content or what they're moaning about, you see highlight reels on Facebook of him doing a bit of this, that and the other, but he's not tearing up trees, is he, at Chelsea? Same as when he went to Dortmund and he saw he's got man of the match, he scored a goal. Yeah, you see it like once a month because he only turns up once a month. And as for Rashford, nobody cares, man. Nobody in this fan base cares about him anymore. All the goodwill he ever had with the United fan base is gone. And let's hope he does go and score 10 goals for Villa between now and the end of the season and we never have to see him back at Old Trafford again. As sad as it sounds, kid grown up there, come through the academy, exactly what United want to do, but the actions of the guy over the last 18 months, 2 years, are the actions of someone who doesn't want to be there. So, end of. Goodbye, see you later. I couldn't care what them two have to say. They're basically pretty much the last of the 2 bad eggs, aren't they, of all the past crap we've had. There's not many of them left now. I'd class Shaw as one of them, personally. I think he's just hanging about there for a paycheck and can't be bothered to properly get fit. That's completely and utterly proven by him going to the Euros and then getting injured again. I've got a note to say about the guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's a joke. Get him out the club, the same as we've got Rashford out the club. He's been there for 10 years. He's one of the old guard. He's injured all the time. I don't care if you think he's good on the pitch. I actually don't think he is as good as people think he is. I think we all have these memories of his 2-3 games he plays in a row before he gets injured again. And think, oh, if only we had Shaw. There's plenty of games, if you go back and watch games with Shaw in the back 3 or 4, where he's switching off at the back post and he ain't getting back in and they've took one in away. It's all just history. It's all thinking something that's there, but it isn't. And that is really all I've got to say. We've got some transfers in. We've got Dorgu in. He looked fairly lively out on the right-hand side against Leicester. But again, it's Leicester on his debut. You know, we'll see in 5 or 10 games' time what he does. And on the Dorgu thing, I guess we'll get into Amorim a little bit and what I think about Amorim. Like, I think he's got a few things wrong these last few games, and whether he wants to class it as experiment or he's seen if people can work in different places, or whether he actually doesn't care, he knows the league is gone or whatever, that he's just doing these things to try stuff out, whatever. But I think the Mainu experiment up front was a disaster. It should have been Bruno Fernandes. And it should be like Ericsson or Collier in there with Agate. Even Bruno's not a pivot player for the reasons I've already explained. If we are not playing a striker, at least Bruno knows where the net is. Put him up front. That was just a experiment that went wrong. I think Bruno as a pivot player is an experiment that will cost us game after game after game. And whatever you think, Dorgu can play on both sides, fine. Whatever. You know, that is completely and utterly all right. But we haven't got a left back or a left wing back that is left-footed. The entire squad, we go spend 25 million quid on a left-footed wing back and we play him on the right. And we leave Dalot on the left, who's been having a stinker all season on the left. I don't care whether Dorgu is a right wing back who likes to cut in. We have got to simplify this tactics and formation if we want to win another game this season, let alone if we want to climb the table or win the Europa League or whatever. We need to be playing 2 defensive 6s. So forget about Bruno in there. Get Collier and Agate in there. Get Dorgu on the left. And get Dalot on the right. Or even Ahmad on the right wing back. Because he will play Bruno all the time. And I just would not be playing him in the pivot. So you put him at 10 or you put him up front. Put Ahmad on right wing back. Dorgu on left wing back. And just play more compact, man. We can't keep going out and conceding goals and going behind and then hoping to come back in games. It's just ridiculous. How about we stay tight and try and nick a game instead of going a goal behind and then chasing games all the time? I just think we really, really, really need to think about what we're doing here. But maybe Amorim doesn't care about the league. But saying that, the Dorgu thing was in the cup, wasn't it? But maybe Amorim's just experimenting the league because we're going to finish anywhere between probably 16th and 10th, depending if we put a few games together. So we will see what he does in the Europa League because there's going to be harder games coming in the Europa League. Remember how we started the Europa League with a couple of draws against really, really poor teams, and we picked up form in it and beat the teams we should be beating, but they're all poor teams. We haven't played a really good team. in the Europa League. So let's see, maybe not this next draw, but the draw after for the round of 16. We're probably going to get a half-decent side. And it will be a huge test to see if this team can turn up against a decent European team. Because like I've already said, it's fine turning up against Rangers and FCB and all teams like that and beating them 1-0, scoring late goals. When you go away in Europe versus a competent team, we will get beaten. And do you trust this team to come back to Old Trafford and turn anything around? We have to win the FA Cup or the Europa League. We just have to do it. If we want to progress in the summer with Amorim's first major window, we need to be in Europe. How can we attract people like Edison, Gyökeres, Osman, people like that when we are 15th in the league and no Europe? There's no people saying we don't need to be in Europe, have a year off it. And I get it, but no, we haven't got the time to be not being in Europe, I'm afraid. And everyone says about Amorim's coaching and he's not had time to coach and he's not had this, that and the other. He's been there now for how long? I don't know. Was it just before November time? Was it 3 or 4 months now? He's had enough games and enough time with this team for him to they should be know what they're doing. It's a different matter if they can't do it. But I don't think coaching is the problem. It's the players cannot do what he's asking them to do. And my opinion is, to get some heat off himself from the media, he should just tighten up the midfield and stay with your 3 at the back and play a more compact defensive version of it and just ride the season out. And then in the summer, he can do what he wants, get the people he thinks he's going to get that'll change the team. And if we get to next Christmas and we're still losing games like we are now, when he's had the January window, which I know we didn't get. Well, we bought 3 people in January, and I think we were the 3rd highest spenders in the Premier League. So let's not pretend that we're not buying or doing anything. And I know 2 of them were kids, but we still spent nearly the most amount of money out of all the Premier League teams in the January window. And if he gets 100, 200 million and a few people out in the summer, if we're still in this position come December, that's when I think the fans will really start to think, what's going on here? Because this was supposed to be a change for us. He's had 4 or 5 of his own players in now. We've got the youth coming through. What's going on? We're still losing games left, right and centre. But yeah, tell me in the comments, what do you think about the Bruno Dalot debate? What do you think about Leacher and whether we should cut our losses on him and get rid now he's injured again? And I know we won't be able to, but I mean, when he gets back, should we allow him the time to get back or should we be getting rid? Another year into development of the system without him? Surely we'll have another couple of left-sided players by then. Anyway, you would hope. And what I just mentioned about Amorim, how much time are you willing to give him after the summer if we're still losing games? Tell me, like, favourite, subscribe if you've got this far. Please do me a favour and I will see you on the next video. Peace.